can I use both LinkedIn and Twitter together to amplify my online presence as a developer? Or recruiters are active in Twitter for hiring developers? Like, do you have anything for LinkedIn versus Twitter's?
I use LinkedIn a lot for job hunting. I also use Twitter a lot for job hunting, but Twitter is more of like conversation based. So if you're looking for jobs on Twitter, you might not be able to find the right hiring opportunities. What you can find though is people who would be hiring or who are working on startups, or who are like building in public. And so they're like sharing a lot about their journeys. And so you can learn from them. Similar to LinkedIn, LinkedIn can be uh, can turn into a place where there are a lot of jargons around and you can't find the right information because there's a bunch of noise as well. Same goes for Twitter. But what you need to do is learn those tricks to actually mute or remove those from your feed so that you personalize your feed for your specific information. You don't need, so basically what you don't, you have a lot of information, and information overload is equally bad as no information at all. So don't be overwhelmed about it. If you find some information which is not relevant to you, feel free to just filter it out, because in that sense, it would be easier for you to find the right opportunities and your feed would be much more personalized. You have to work on either of those. It's not either or, it's more of what you're looking for. If you find someone on Twitter, that doesn't mean that they don't have a profile on LinkedIn. I bet you name a person whose profile is not there on LinkedIn and is on just only on Twitter, or vice versa, who's like really active in the community. Because if people are active in the community, they generally do prefer to have their audiences differed. For me, I also use these platforms separately. Like, for example, for LinkedIn, I specifically focus on job profiles, job hunting, or networking with people in the hackathon community, like somewhat in the hackathon community. But mostly, I just focus on my professional career, that, okay, these are the opportunities that I have, these are the opportunities that I'm sharing, this is something that I'm looking for, or like in general, if I have some tips to share, something like that. I use LinkedIn for that. For Twitter, it's much more about conversations for me, because it turns into like much more, how do you put it? Much more conversations about, hey, yeah, I'm working in open source. Oh, yes, really? What are you working on? And from there, it just goes from there, because it's basically much more about networking. LinkedIn is much more about finding those opportunities that sometimes I feel, and Twitter is much more about that. But that's just how I have designed my feed. It's not that you can't use either or for the platform. It's just, I think it's a way of using your own platform the way that you want it, rather than depending on someone else who are doing a LinkedIn versus Twitter war. It's not a platform war. It's how to best use your platform for yourself. I also use Polywork at times. And I have got a lot of collaborations from Polywork as well. But those collaborations are mostly beta testing, speaking opportunities, opportunities to like just consult on a startup or something like that. Again, depends on how you're designing the platform best to your particular intake. There are all sorts of people in these different platforms, and everybody has different interests. So you just need to look for the like-minded people who are working on similar things as you are. Personal branding plays a huge role. The question that you asked is, how does personal branding associate with what you're looking for on LinkedIn? Now, the first and foremost thing in terms of personal branding is, how do you look how do you want people to look at you, and what do you think that speaks basically your story? How does your story is presented to the other viewers? And if somebody is looking for something, how will exactly they find you? So the first and foremost thing on a LinkedIn profile is your headline. That's the main thing. And I don't know if a lot of people know this actually, but this headline counts for a lot of keywords as well. If you're searching for something on this software platform, let's say I talked about some things like software engineer Google, then it serves as a keyword. If you have that in your profile, it will come up at the top. So I can see Luke Egan, Dennis, Emmanuel, all of them have software engineer Google as a part of their headline. So this really works as keywords. So I have a larger headline does not mean that you need to have a larger headline. Everybody goes for their own thing. If you have smaller headline, that's also great in some, because it's very focused and sophisticated and things that you looking for. Always have a profile picture, please. If you don't have a profile picture, people think you're a fake profile, even if you are not. And the other thing that I absolutely loved is this section, which is the about section. A great way to tell your own story in your own words. I think you should definitely focus some time on your about section when you are presenting it on your LinkedIn profile. And this is the first step to personal branding. If you're doing nothing else, just make sure your about section and your experience section is all up to date. There are tons of sections that LinkedIn offers in terms of what your profile looks like. For example, I love to volunteer, and from there it speaks that I'd like to volunteer for these organizations for animal welfare, health, and for children. I also have recommendations in place from previous managers, and any of the honors and awards that I have are here. I also have a section, like in my experiences section, I also have like sort of like a story. Anytime I changed a role or a profile, anytime I started something different, I add that as well. I have a bunch of other things here based on my profile, but again, it solely depends on how you want to work through it. The one tip that I would give you in with personal branding is that your profiles need to be up to date at all times. Try to keep it up to date, because there would be things that you'd be doing and you'd be forgetting, but at that particular moment, you'll absolutely be proud of it. And it is definitely a thing to be proud of in the in future as well. So personal branding comes for just keeping things up to date and presenting it in a way that you would like to be viewed. If you're looking for like a different role, a different, like for example, you said that you wanted to switch to Java development, from Java development to Moonstack, then yes, I would definitely recommend putting projects in Moonstack that you have built yourself, something that shows that yes, you are actually enthusiastic and learning about a different field. And so if you wanted to switch in between technologies, building a project at a hackathon or building a project at like in general for a school project or something would be a great way to go. So for switching roles, for switching tech stack, for anything of that sort, if you can find something credible on your, like to put on your profile that actually speaks volumes about your enthusiasm, it would be great and easier for people to believe you. For example, let's say you found a bootcamp. There are a lot of free bootcamps available online for a particular technology, and you want to shift to that technology. Just participate in that bootcamp. It doesn't take much of your time, but you are also interested to switch to that technology, right? So it's an interesting way to spend your time. So spend your time in that bootcamp. Just finish that bootcamp, finish a project. In that way, you get two things to post on your profile now. One, that you finished a bootcamp to mark your interest there. And two, you also have a project to show your skills and show your proof of work. So as a student, as a professional, these are great ways to just mark your credibility from there. Even today, if I'm learning something new, I try to make sure that I like either find a course, or if I'm doing it myself, I have a project to showcase at the end of it. Or if nothing else, I just find a community of people to connect with, who can help me make switches to that role. So yeah, a lot of these things work great for me, and I use LinkedIn, Twitter actively for these things. I hope that answers your question.